Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Podcast. Today is Sunday, June 16th, 2019. The reason why I'm doing a rare weekend podcast is because we had a humongous trade yesterday, and then we had another big trade in baseball, and a minor-ish trade in hockey. But the big one, we have to talk about it. Anthony Davis traded from the Pelicans to the Lakers. Pelicans get back in return Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, the 2019 number 4 overall pick, 2021 protected first round pick. I believe it's top 8 protected. Unprotected pick in 2024. Pick swap in 2023. That is a really nice haul for New Orleans. And now they have a young core of Zion Williamson, whoever they pick fourth, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, and Josh Hart. And then Drew Holiday's there too. So that is between a 30 and 40 win team in the West. But we have to really talk about the Lakers side of it. We'll get back to the Pelicans side in a minute. But this is a move that the Los Angeles Lakers had to make. They needed to get a superstar in his prime to go with LeBron James, whether it was via trade like Davis or in free agency like a Kyrie Irving or somebody like that. But they land the guy that they wanted. Rich Paul gets his 2 main clients together, and the Lakers gave up the farm for somebody that's in his prime, a top 5 player in the league when he's healthy, and now they have their front court set for the next couple years as LeBron ages out into the tail end of his prime here. And then what's next for the Lakers after this? Free agency. Do they max out Kyrie? Do they max out Kemba Walker? Do they break up the max slot and give out money to guys like Seth Curry and Bojan Bogdanovic, or Danny Green would be a nice fit there, JJ Redick? There's other guys that they can sign as they do a quick fix build around LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Kyle Kuzma. You can't forget about Kuzma. So LeBron would play at the 3 and then Kuzma at the 4, and then Davis would play at center. So they obviously need a point guard now, and then they need shooters. I really like the fit of Kyrie Irving there, even though those two played together before. I'm talking about Irving and LeBron. And it worked out for the most part. They won a championship together. And if Kyrie doesn't get hurt in 2015, maybe that's another championship for them. Kemba Walker would be a fine fit there. Or they could just bring back Rajon Rondo and sign Danny Green and another wing player. I don't think they'll get Tobias Harris. That's not a good fit for them, in my opinion. Jimmy Butler would be interesting. He could play both the 2 and the 3. So that's somebody I wouldn't rule out per se. And maybe a guy like Chris Middleton would be an interesting fit as well. He could play both the 2 and the 3. But I don't think he is as good as a player as Jimmy Butler. Although they're both good players, and I think that Milwaukee should be in play to re-sign Middleton. I think that's what they're going to do, because I think they're desperate and they want to keep a good team around Giannis, because Giannis is a free agent, I believe, after 2021. So I think the Bucks want to make him happy. So if Middleton and Brook Lopez leave, then the Bucks, in my opinion, are in a bit of trouble, and that could be the next superstar traded. Losers of the Anthony Davis deal, Boston Celtics. They're obviously rumored for them, or for Davis, but the rumor is that they refuse to give up Jason Tatum. I think they missed their window to trade for a superstar. Kyrie Irving's obviously leaving in free agency, and they just had a bad year. I mean, let's be honest, the Boston Celtics were a huge disappointment in the season this past year, but nobody wants to talk about it because of how bad the Lakers were. But at least the Celtics, unlike the Lakers, won a playoff series. The Lakers didn't even come close to the playoffs in the West, and the Celtics, meanwhile, are staring at a rebuild, and they're going to have to build around Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Do I think they'll be bad next year? No. But is it in play? Yeah. Because another free agent out there is Al Horford. He's a good player. And do I think that Al Horford wants to go back there and try to retool with the Celtics as they try to search for the next available superstar? You never know, but that's another possibility that's out there, Al Horford leaving the Celtics. Gordon Hayward's still there, obviously. And they are also going to lose Terry Rozier in free agency in all likelihood. And so that's going to be interesting to see where they pivot. The New York Knicks, a lot of people are considering a loser. I do not. Maybe if Kevin Durant didn't tear his Achilles, I would have considered them a loser. But to me, the Knicks are not a loser or a winner in this case. I don't think it was worth it for the Knicks to give up that much for Anthony Davis with Kevin Durant being injured. So, and it's funny because Kevin Durant is not under contract with the Knicks, and I think that he was probably going to sign with the Knicks if he didn't tear his Achilles. Maybe he still does, but it would have been a much brighter outlook for New York if Durant didn't tear his Achilles, and assuming they would sign him. To me, if Durant doesn't tear his Achilles, Anthony Davis is probably wearing orange and blue right now rather than purple and gold. So it took a Kevin Durant torn Achilles to get Anthony Davis to the Lakers. That's just my opinion. I think he would have been a Knick if Kevin Durant didn't tear his Achilles. That injury literally changed the landscape of the entire NBA. And another team that I thought was a bit of a loser, but not really, was the Clippers. Because the Clippers had the assets to trade for Anthony Davis. I thought they were a dark horse to land him. But the reason why they're not a loser is because they have other options. They can sign Kawhi Leonard. They can trade some assets for another disgruntled superstar that we're not thinking of that's available, like a Bradley Beal or something like that. I thought that was going to be who the Lakers would land if Kevin Durant didn't tear his Achilles. Because like I said, Anthony Davis is probably wearing orange and blue if Kevin Durant doesn't tear his his Achilles. And Bradley Beal's probably in purple and gold. But Beal is somebody that the Clippers could trade for now. So I don't consider the Clippers or Knicks losers. The Knicks would have been a loser if Kevin Durant didn't tear his Achilles and the Lakers still trade for Anthony Davis. One quick conspiracy theory about this is that the Lakers were title favorites 2 days ago and the odds came out, and everybody was scratching their heads like, huh? And my thought was, okay, something's up here. I think he's probably going to the Lakers, meaning he has an Anthony Davis. And sure enough, news breaks around 6 o'clock yesterday night that he's been traded to the Lakers. I was like, see, Vegas knew. Never doubt Vegas. So that's a thing to remember as you see odds, just not in the NBA, but in any sport. And you think it's weird. They know something that we don't. And they must have heard that this deal was in the works or done. So there you go. That's why the Lakers were title favorites 2 days ago. And do I think they should be the title favorites right now? Absolutely not. To me, the favorite right now is tough to say. If Kawhi goes back to the Raptors, I have to say Toronto's the favorite to repeat. I'm being dead honest. That's a very great team. Pascal Siakam's only going to get better. OG Anunoby's only going to get better. Yeah, they might lose Marc Gasol potentially, and we don't know what Kyle Lowry's future holds, but if Kawhi goes back to the Raptors, they should be considered the favorites to repeat. If not, then Philly, I think, is right there with their young core of Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid. If they bring back Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris, they have to be considered among the favorites to win the title. Obviously, we just talked about the Lakers, but I don't think they're the favorites, but I think the favorite if Kawhi goes back there, it should be the Raptors, and if he doesn't, I'm going to say it should be Philadelphia. And you can't rule out Milwaukee, especially if they bring back Middleton and Lopez. And obviously they have who should be the MVP in Giannis Antetokounmpo. So I wouldn't rule out the Milwaukee Bucks in the conversation. Another team that's interesting to me, we talked about them a couple minutes ago, and that's the Clippers. Say if they get Kawhi Leonard and they have Kawhi and all the other young players, they have like Shaman and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Montrezl Harrell, that has to be considered a favorite to come out of the West, at least. Don't forget about the Denver Nuggets, who made the second round last year but lost to Portland. They have Jokic, they have Murray, they have a couple other young players that they can build around. And that's another candidate to trade for a disgruntled superstar. That, to me, was a dark horse for Anthony Davis. They could have done Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, and a couple future picks to the Pelicans. But that Lakers offer really was a Godfather offer that the Pelicans had to take. But that would have been enticing because Michael Porter Jr. was thought out to be the next Ben Simmons, and he was going into college, and he obviously got hurt, so we barely seen him play. He played in the tournament when he was on Missouri for, I think he played in one NCAA tournament game, and then his team lost. So we didn't even see him play his rookie year. So it should be interesting to see what the Nuggets do. Portland made the Western Finals. Don't forget about them. CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard. Do they go out and get an extra piece? Like DeMarcus Cousins, I think, would be a great fit in Portland with those guys because they need a center because Jusuf Nurkic is hurt. And I don't think they'll bring back Enes Kanter, although Kanter did very well there. I just think that Boogie would be an interesting fit there on like a 1-for-1 deal. And they can use Nurkic as like a trade piece or something down the road. But then again, that wouldn't really make any sense because I think Nurkic is under contract for a couple more years, and I don't know how much longer Nurkic is going to be out for. So their bigger need would be like on the wing or a combo forward. Tobias Harris would be a nice fit in Portland. And then meanwhile in the East, don't rule out the Brooklyn Nets in terms of being like a contender. Say they signed Kyrie Irving and Jimmy Butler. Like that could be the two guys they max. And they have that, Karis LeVert, Jared Allen. Like, that's suddenly, like, a top 4 team in the East, assuming the Celtics take a step back, Raptors lose Kawhi. So it'd be the Nets, the Bucks, and the 76ers. Obviously, New York's in the conversation if they signed a healthy Kevin Durant, but Kevin Durant's not healthy and won't be healthy this season as he won't even play. And then Klay Thompson, I think, is going to go back to the Warriors and sign a max contract. But he'll obviously miss a chunk of next year and then come back in the spring. The Warriors will probably still be a playoff team in the West. You obviously can't rule them out. They always say don't underestimate a heart of a champion. So it would be interesting to see what they do. They have Draymond Green. They have Stephen Curry. They're going to lose Durant regardless because he's not even playing next year. Klay Thompson they won't have most of the year. Do they bring back DeMarcus Cousins? That would be an interesting move. That's what Boogie should do. He should go back to Golden State, in my opinion at least. So we'll talk more about the ramifications of this Anthony Davis deal within the next couple days on the podcast. Another trade that happened yesterday is that the New York Yankees acquired Edwin Encarnacion from the Seattle Mariners for a minor league pitcher and some cash. I think that's a mega steal for the Yankees. He makes their lineup better. But what also this tells me is that there's another deal coming for a starting pitcher, whether that's Madison Bumgarner or Marcus Stroman, Matt Boyd of Detroit, somebody. But to me it has to be Bumgarner because I don't think that Washington will trade Max Scherzer. And I don't think that the Blue Jays would trade Marcus Stroman in division, although they traded J. Happ to the Yankees last year, so they have some familiarity with them. Although Stroman is a better pitcher than J. Happ, and he's still young, and I'm not sure if they'll trade somebody that good to a division rival. But Edwin Encarnacion lengthens the Yankees lineup. He'll hit a bunch of home runs in Yankee Stadium, and like I said, this makes their lineup better. They have the best lineup in the American League now with him. They have no automatic outs in their lineup once Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton come back. So they would have, leading off at third, DJ LeMahieu. Hitting second and right would be Aaron Judge. Their number 3 hitter, I would hit Didi Gregorius third, or even Aaron Hicks, somebody who can hit lefties. But I kind of like the idea of Didi hitting third. Giancarlo Stanton in left field cleaning up. Batting fifth would be Gary Sanchez. I would put Edwin Encarnacion 6. Hicks or Didi 7. 8 would be Gleyber Torres. He plays second base. And I'm missing somebody. Who? Oh, Luke Voit, their first baseman. He's really good. He has 18 homers, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But that's just a loaded lineup. Like, Luke Voit is hitting second in the Yankees lineup today because Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton aren't back yet. And there's a chance that he's hitting 7th or 8th in this lineup once those guys are back and once Edwin Encarnacion's in the lineup. So that's just insane. No automatic outs. This is a better lineup than the Astros when healthy. Better lineup than the Red Sox when healthy. Edwin Encarnacion owns the Red Sox, especially from his Toronto days. And Edwin Encarnacion had a lot of success against the Yankees when he was with the Blue Jays as well. So it makes sense to me on a lot of levels because the Yankees are obviously familiar with this player since he spent a majority of his career with the Blue Jays. And he's somebody that could play first base or could DH for them. And he really just fills a black hole in that lineup. And now Brett Gardner to the bench. Clint Frazier becomes a trade asset. So does Thairo Estrada. A lot of people love Clint Frazier. I'm not the biggest Clint Frazier fan in the world. He's a good player, don't get me wrong. But he's not a good defensive player, and he's been hurt a lot throughout his career. So if I'm the Yankees, I'd trade him for a starting pitcher like today. Like, hand him to San Francisco for Madison Bumgarner. I know a lot of fans will be upset, but Madison Bumgarner on a contender will be rejuvenated. I feel very strongly about that, and it's very reminiscent of 2 years ago with Justin Verlander, and Verlander wanted to come to the Yankees, but Brian Cashman thought he was washed up, and it proved that he wasn't, and Cashman had an egg on his face because he didn't trade for Verlander. Instead, he traded for Sonny Gray, who turned out to be a massive bust. And so he can't get this wrong in terms of a starting pitcher. It has to be Bumgarner, unless if Scherzer's on the market. But like I said, I don't think Washington's trading Scherzer. I think they're going to hang in that National League East race. The NL East, although the Braves are starting to pull away a little bit, I think the Braves are the best team in that division. I picked them to win that division before the year. They have a lot of good young talent. But I wouldn't even rule out Washington in the wild card race because the NL wild card, I mean, is wide open. You have those two teams from the Central in the Brewers and the Cardinals. The Cubs are in first in that division. I think the Cubs end up winning that division. And then you have in the National League West, I think the Dodgers are running away with the West. Colorado's playing themselves back in the contention. They're good. The Padres have fallen out meanwhile, but I do think they'll try to make some buyers moves because they signed Manny Machado, and I think that they're going to flip some assets somewhere so they can get the ace pitcher they need, like New York's Noah Syndergaard or somebody like that. Syndergaard, I think, would be a beneficiary to a change of scenery, and I think San Diego would be an interesting landing spot for him. So the Padres are certainly a team to watch at the trade deadline. They can make themselves better and put themselves in the race. So, National League wildcard race, you have the Phillies, the Nationals. I don't think the Mets are going to stay in it. I just don't. In the Central, you have the Cardinals and the Brewers. And in the West, you have the Rockies and the Padres. And I think the Diamondbacks fall out. I don't think they're that good at all. Although they've had some nice stretches this year, and they've had a lot of surprise contributors to their team. But I really think that they're going to move off some pieces, like an Adam Jones, who would be a really good fit with the Philadelphia Phillies, who could replicate what Andrew McCutchen was doing for them. And by the way, that injury to McCutchen was a monster blow to the Phillies. Ever since he got hurt, they've been struggling. So they really need to fix that offense, although Jay Bruce has come in and done well. And they also need a starting pitcher to go with Aaron Nola atop of that rotation. Maybe they're a dark horse to trade for Madison Bumgarner. So keep an eye on the trade market now. We're seeing a lot of trades happen in baseball. It's mostly been Mariners, because the other day they traded Jay Bruce to Philly and now Edwin Encarnacion to the Yankees. I think Encarnacion is going to have the bigger impact between those two players because of the thought of him in Yankee Stadium. Although the thought of Jay Bruce in Philly's bandbox is fun too. But the idea of the DH position, I think, gives Edwin Encarnacion the advantage. Although Jay Bruce could be somebody that can come up and pinch hit in a key situation if he's not in the lineup. So I do think Edwin Encarnacion will end up being the better acquisition of those two now ex-Mariners players. A hockey trade happened yesterday that I want to get into too. Ali Mata was traded from Pittsburgh to Chicago. In return, Pittsburgh gets a 5th-round pick. I'm not going to spend much time on this trade because it's not that big of a deal to me. What this does is that Pittsburgh clears some cap room. Maybe they go out and make another move to try to shake up that core a little bit in terms of their forwards. And on the flip side, Chicago gets a much-needed defenseman as guys like Duncan Keith and Brent Seabrook age. And that's a team, in my mind, that's under some pressure. Because they're in a situation like the San Francisco Giants and the New York Giants. I mean, the Lakers pre-LeBron and Anthony Davis too, but I'm not going to count them. So like the two Giants franchises, and the Los Angeles Kings are sort of rebuilding already. So I won't even put them in that conversation. What the two Giants franchises and the Blackhawks have in common is that they've won a couple championships, and their front offices are still convinced that they're good and they're living in the past. And reality, they should be rebuilding. Although the New York Giants, I think, realized that last year that it was a mistake to extend Odell Beckham Jr. and perhaps draft Saquon Barkley. And that's why they traded Odell Beckham. And then they drafted Daniel Jones. And that's a sign that, to me, that they're ready to rebuild and not try to go for it again. And the Blackhawks, to me, are just still living in the past. Like, Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews are not getting any younger, especially Toews. Kane's still a great player, but I think that they're trying to patch together a contender and take one last kick at the can, but I just don't think it's going to work. The Western Conference is loaded. The Blues just won the Stanley Cup. Colorado's up and coming. The Sharks are still good. They're in a better spot than the Blackhawks in my mind, meaning the aging contender, sort of, although the Blackhawks are not a contender, the Sharks are. But the Sharks are the aging contender that's still trying to take the kick at the can because of guys like Joe Thornton and Joe Pavelski. But those guys have never won a cup. And they have some youth on their roster, the Sharks, unlike the Blackhawks. The Sharks have a better, younger nucleus and guys in their prime than Chicago does. San Jose is likely to re-sign Erik Karlsson. That will help them. And let's just hope they get the Erik Karlsson that single-handedly carried Ottawa to the conference finals rather than the guy that they saw last year who was banged up throughout the year. They have Brent Burns. They have Mark-Edouard Vlasic. They have Evander Kane. They have some better pieces to build around their aging guys than Chicago does, and that's the difference between the Sharks and the Blackhawks right now. So the Blackhawks get Ali Mata, and they have the number 3 pick in the draft. Do they keep it or trade it? I think they keep it, and they'll probably take Alex Turcotte or Dylan Cousins or somebody like that. Or they could trade it for a disgruntled star. You never know. Like, nobody saw the Corey Schneider trade coming, so we've seen that before. And nobody saw Jordan Staal to Carolina coming either when that happened about 7 years ago. So maybe Chicago's that surprise team that trades their pick to try to get good right away. Although that didn't really work out for Carolina, although they made the conference finals this year. But they made that trade a long time ago to try to make it a run at it in 2013 or 2014. But that obviously did not work out. And the Rangers, I don't think, will trade the 2 pick. I think that they'll keep the pick and take Kaapo Kakko and build around him and Vitaly Kravtsov and their young goalie that they have that's going to start the year in Hartford, Igor Shedrotsky, and I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I just gave it a whiff there. Devils are obviously going to take Jack Hughes. I'm doing a mock draft tomorrow on the podcast, as well as an NBA mock draft with the Pelicans picking at 4 now rather than the Lakers. So, regular podcast tomorrow. I'm going to have guests throughout the week talking about all these big trades and whatnot and what's next for some of these teams that are involved, like the Lakers and the Celtics and the NBA, and obviously the Pelicans, and then baseball with the Yankees trade, and then hockey with the Ali Mata deal and some other trades that could potentially be in the works for the next couple days. Hope you guys have a great Father's Day, everybody.